They were just stories. Stepping into that little hut felt like stepping into one of those films. Except this time, it actually seemed. They say you can tell what a person is afraid to lose by the photos they capture. Still, these moments were so mundane, whether it was me playing with my makeshift toys or my first time sitting up on a bed. They felt so lively when uncertain and cherished from all the photos born. I understood how much I was loved and cherished, unexpectedly born. I understood how much I was loved and cherished from all the photos that she took. Hi, good old nostalgia. It brings us a sense of comfort looking back at past memories because we know exactly how it's going to turn out. I totally forgot I had this film camera lying around. The photos in there are at least 4 years old, so I'm so curious to see what's in there. I don't remember most of the shots that I took, but I do remember I brought it to a very, very special place and documented one of the best moments of my life. Throughout time, humans have invented numerous tools to document our memories. And as technology improves, there are more and more ways we can document our lives. It is also getting increasingly easier to let lives slip by due to the sheer accessibility of documentation. I think my bus is here. And social media just has the ability to make you think your life is boring, uneventful, and not worthy to be documented. Whenever I look back on photos and videos taken in NYC, I just remember exactly how the city made me feel. Energetic, ambitious, and most importantly, free. I felt so free and embraced by the city that that's the very reason why I still remain so charmed. One significant memory was when I went to New York for work instead of holiday. I brought my body art business halfway across the globe because I was feeling so jaded in Singapore. The art scene was extremely small and predictable. Trying to push boundaries in a place that valued conformity over everything else was really tiring. And it was to a point I began resenting my work, which was the love of my life. Can you imagine? So I decided to pack my bags and try to work in a totally new environment in a bid to gain new inspiration. It only hit me a few days before the flight that New York is huge. I knew zero friends and knew of no contacts in the industry. There was a huge chance I was going to fail at my one and only agenda, making me more jaded and less money in my bank account. I also had one employee who was going with me too, so I might just waste both our time, effort, and money. All odds were stacked against me and my anxiety was rising through the roof. But as soon as I landed, the city surprised me. I looked at things even when I had so little. I sacrificed a lot and faced so much anxiety at the moment, but I also put myself out there and trusted that life would embrace me, and it really gave me the best adventure of my lifetime. I felt like I was in a movie. It's so easy to get lost in it every day and forget that that vacuum of my life existed. But looking back at these little moments that I managed to capture really keeps me going. And it's always the candid and seemingly mundane moments that brings back all the emotions I felt at that moment. And it's like I'm borrowing the strength from the past version of me. Wow, just looking at all these photos that we took in New York, it just brings back so much memories instantly, especially this photo of a pop-up that we did. We actually organized this pop-up because we didn't know magical because we have something to think. I was just look back at even in moments of high anxiety. I could fully immerse myself in those emotions to balance between all that whenever I will be, things will always work out. And life indeed got better as the season progresses. There's such a way to embed lessons in everyday mundane moments. And as I'm
People often joke about packing up their things, moving to a remote island or far up in the mountains and build a little home to live a simple life in. I know I have. But very few have been courageous enough to actually do it.
Welcome to our house.
Welcome to our house. We are two guys who brought our surfboards, turned off our cell phones, and walked out here in September 2010. We lived here one winter to follow a dream, surfing and live a simple life. We gathered driftwood, bottles for insulation, rocks, everything we could find from this beach. We made an environmentally friendly home. We truly lived as the saying, rich life, simple means. You are welcome to use everything here, and we hope you enjoy and respect it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Compost where they even have 50 meters.
That's important. They even built a toilet. Oh, that is pretty incredible.
Do you even fit in there?
What do you mean? Of course I fit in there. Personistas are fit in there.
Hey!
This is so inspiring. I think about they built this thing and they just lived here basically without any money for 9 months. Like a simple life, eating, sleeping, reading, surfing, snowboarding.
We came here with the intention to get a taste of such a life without time, cell phones, or any other obligations. A life where our only worries were whether we had enough food, water, or wood.
This might be harder than excavated. Fire! Took us what, an hour at least?
I gotta go do the dishes in the stream. I gotta brush my boots.
And then read me bedtime story.
And then another week.
It is this one. It's the type of place you only ever see in films. The protagonist picks up their stuff, disappears off the face of the earth to live a life of adventure. I've always loved films like that, but their effects were fleeting. They were inspiring, but somehow still didn't seem feasible. They were just stories. Stepping into that little hut felt like stepping into one of those films. My life and kind of the path I chose after graduating college this past summer. We're living here, chilling, making a cabin. Also, I come to places like this and I live the experiences that I do. Very happy to be on because I get to see all these crazy places on a random frigging Wednesday when all my siblings and my friends are at work, and I'm here experiencing these things while I have the health to do them and probably also the ability to withstand a certain amount of discomfort, which I'm sure will wither away with age. So, yeah. It was as though I suddenly realized that it didn't take a certain kind of person, or a certain kind of luck, or a certain sum of money to be like the protagonists in those films. It was about courage. Courage to lead your life as you know it. Courage to follow through with whatever it is you yearn for, no matter how absurd it may seem. And courage to do what many of us only dare to daydream about.
For me, this was like pretty eye-opening. It's just a very good example of how if you want to live differently, if you want to have an adventure, you can do it with very minimal means, and you know, doing it with minimal means usually means more adventure.
Yeah. But also kind of reaffirming, is that a word? The point that Amy made.
There are too many
crazy ideas that are not secret.
Yeah,
Because people, they're just talking about it.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so cool to do this, it would be so good to do that. Yeah, you should do it then.
And then you can see how their crazy idea really paid off and how it inspired so many other people. The potential that your crazy ideas can have.
Yeah.
And this little hut was filled with notes and quotes that were like. And this little hut was filled with notes and quotes that were like a collection of reminders that life is there to be lived. And that you are, in fact, the protagonist.
Let's talk about journaling and vomit. This is a picture of me at 18, here's me at 25, and here's me now. Now these three guys, they don't have a ton in common, but there is one thing. This druggy little teenager, this quarter-life crisis dude who's losing his hair, and this sober, hearty suburban dad, they all journal. Journaling is one of those things that massively changed my life, but there is a problem with it. There is a lot of hype, but there isn't that much instruction. The general message is journal and it'll change your life. And so you sit down at a blank page and, now what? Should I start with Dear Diary? Do I talk about my day? Do I talk about my childhood? Am I allowed to use this for a shopping list? What are the rules? If you've ever wondered why journaling isn't doing that life-changing thing that it's meant to, or even if you love journaling and you're looking to love it more, then I made this video for you. But first, I should probably explain the title. The vomit system. Wow. To me, journaling is vomiting. So you know when you're really, really sick, maybe you got windy roads, maybe you got plastered last night. I don't know. I mean, vomiting is good. Some are great, others not great, but the good stuff stays with you. And in this video, I want to take you through that good stuff. My all-time favorite journaling techniques and the system that I think about them in. The vomit system. Alright, let's do it. So what is this? That's probably the question I've got right now. What this is the 5 main reasons that I journal, the 5 things that I use journaling for. One reason starts with V, another reason starts with O, then M, then I, then T, and the entire topic starts with J. So if you're playing along with the alphabet superset, this video is J. Now let's talk about vomit. I feel like I'm going to keep saying that. First reason. A journal to vent. I've also made this the first reason because this is how I started journaling. It's how I started a lot of journaling sessions. I'll show you what I mean. Vent. Write what makes you angry. This is a quote from the writer Poe Bronson, who said whenever he has writer's block, he just thinks of something that, you know, makes him mad. And it's not that he's trying to write a rant, it's just that rants come pretty easy, you know? It just rolls right out of you. I start with whatever makes me angry, and that usually gets me over that hurdle of starting. Now, as much as venting is a tool to get us into the flow, it does have some practical benefits. One of the big ones is the mind dump effect. So, come on, Red. So before journaling, I kind of see my mind like that. Afterwards, it's like that. It's this indexing effect. Things are chaotic up here. Things are not chaotic up here. There's this quote that I like. I don't know what I think until I write it. Apparently Joan Didion and like 30 other people said that. It's one of those ones where there's like a think piece on where did this quote originate. But regardless of its origin, I really like its meaning. Because basically what we're trying to do is get all of this mess and put it on paper. And paper, it's finite, it's trivial, it's clean. We can sort of see what's going on. The thing that I liken it to is looking for your keys. If you're looking for your keys in a dark room, but you want to find them, as soon as you turn on the light, you're like, oh, got it. This is when the lights are off. I have no idea what's going on up here. This is when the lights are on, and I'm like, oh, there's that nasty thought. There's that cognitive distortion. Maybe I'm not a train wreck. And that is vent, the first thing that I like to journal for. Now, we have O. Obligations. Yeah, specifically to make sure our obligations aren't just rogue intrusive thoughts that just bug us throughout the day, and also to get them done. This step is similar to venting in the sense that we are mind dumping, but the big difference is we are not just mind dumping our thoughts, but our responsibilities, our to-do list. Just trying to, I'm going to say it again, vomit it onto the page. The idea here is that we don't want to use our brain to store problems. That was smooth. We want to use it to solve problems. And in order to free up that space, we want to put all of our problems onto the journal. Also, if you want to explore just how far you can take this indexing idea, just taking your thoughts and putting them somewhere else, check out Tiago Forte's concept of the second brain. Super fascinating stuff. Alright, let's get into actionables. When I am using journaling for obligations, what I do is these 4 things. So firstly, I start with an obligation dump. This is where it's like anything that could remotely be considered an obligation. Everything from I need to write this chapter, I need to get this film built, I need to clean the kitchen, I need to write back to this email, I need to update my license, I want to buy a boat. Everything. Everything from the mundane to the grandiose, just get it all on the page. Next, I organize it. I draw some buckets here. It's fun. In terms of actual buckets, I usually just split this up into like broad categories, like family, finance, health, work. Now we get to step 3, prioritize. I've drawn a boat here. You probably know the story. It's this UK rowing team that won gold one year. And when the coach was asked what the secret formula was, he said, I just gave them all one guiding question. Does it make the boat go faster? Do you want to eat broccoli or a cake? What a crossroads, right? What a normal decision. But for example's sake, I'll roll with it. Broccoli or cake? Which one are you going to eat for breakfast, buddy? Instead of having to mull over all of the pros and cons, the team were just encouraged to ask one question. Will it make the boat go faster? Therefore, pick the broccoli. Sorry, Kate. So in terms of journaling and organising all of these obligations and the to-do list, I usually run it past a guiding question. There's a DC Tim Ferriss question that I like for this. It's which thing on this list, if done, would make everything else easier? And that usually rises the correct obligations to the top. And then finally, I put it into a to-do list form. That's what I got right here. So bare minimum and killing it. This is how I truncate my to-do lists. I write out the bare minimum that I need to do that day. What is the least amount of things that I need to do in order to make tomorrow suck a little less? And then, if I'm really in the mood, what could I get done? I've used this split system for years, and what I really like is it minimizes the guilt that you might place on yourself if you don't get enough stuff done. It creates momentum because the bar's set low, so you do achieve stuff. And it accounts for the normal ebbs and flows of life. Some days are really, really hard. And on those days, it is really nice to know what the bare minimum that you have to do is. And that brings us to M, the next thing that I like to use journaling for. What could this be? I use journaling for my mindset. Do you like this guy? This is meant to be a brain. It's training to get a better mindset. I promise this is going somewhere. So I like to understand mindset in 2 ways. The first way is with a tech metaphor. The mindset is like the operating system that your computer runs. And the second is something that you can train. Hence, the swole brain. But training your mind. Leave it vague. I've talked about this so much, and I've asked that about some deeply. Just starts looking for answers when you're thinking, and it helps train your mindset to just naturally reframe stuff. Next one, possibility. If you are struggling with limiting beliefs or just doubting yourself, it might be worth checking out because statements. What's a because statement, Mr. Baldman? I will tell you, don't worry, I got this. A because statement is a way that we gather evidence that we are whatever the thing that we say we want to be is. Because it's not like you can yell affirmations at yourself and just have your identity change. If, for example, you're trying to be healthier, you can't just yell in the mirror, I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy. I mean, you probably could do that, maybe you'd get a sweat, but ultimately, it's probably not going to be that effective. Instead, we want to build a tangible bank of evidence that we're healthy. So you write the identity statement, there are a few reasons that actually validate this from your day. Now this works on 3 levels. Firstly, it's positive because you do start to actually piece together the evidence, and that's the thing that will cause change. If I'm like, can actually be a half decent, okay, that is inversion. For me, what this is about is pollution reactions. To the point where not is because I've quite, but how can I draw less? To draw less, I could leave my books where I can't see them. I could put my pencils in the cupboard so there's more friction. And looking outside ourselves in order to help ourselves. Next up, we have discipline. This is a bit of a meta tool because it's not about a journaling prompt, but just the entire action of journaling. So, you know that phrase, if you want a kitten, ask for a horse? And whatever it is, and there's always something, what I like to do is put on a timer for 5 minutes and then challenge myself to come up with 30 answers before the timer goes off. For a creative problem, like what should I do? But you can't do it. It's just not true. You can absolutely work on having ideas. You can build that muscle up. I don't know, there's so much messaging about I use journaling to ideate. The skill of having ideas is one of those things where, I don't know, there's so much messaging about it being innate, and if you don't have it, you can't do it. It's just not true. You can absolutely work on having ideas. You can build that muscle up strong, man. And journaling, I think, is a really great environment to do this. So let's say you've got a problem that you're trying to solve. Maybe it's a big problem, like where do I want to live? Or a creative problem, like what should I draw today? Or even a problem of what do I want to do on the weekend? Whatever it is, and there's always something. What I like to do is put on a timer for 5 minutes and then challenge myself to come up with 30 answers before the timer goes off. You know that phrase, if you want a kitten, ask for a horse? This is like the cognitive version of that. If I want one solution, I've got to come up with 30. And usually, I find it's like the 14th idea that I go with. But yeah, one thing that I find really important is just don't edit the list until it's over. It's a quantity game. The second technique that I like to use to ideate is how would blank solve the problem? And that could be anybody. I learned this when I worked in advertising. My first year, I was working for this amazing creative director. And every time we get a brief, he'd say things like, what would Nike do? How would Red Bull solve this problem? And every single time, we'd just break our thinking in the best way possible. And the way that I do it is I'll write down the question, just ask the question, just write it down, and your brain will naturally try to close the loop. This technique I find really good when I'm really struggling with a problem. And the way that I do it is I'll write down the question just before I go to bed, then I go to sleep, and then hopefully I wake up and I try to answer it. And for me, at least, it works more often than it doesn't. Close the loop. Speaking of closing the loop, it's time for our final letter in the vomit system. T. Trajectory. Yeah, I use journaling to get a good sense of my trajectory and also to tweak it as I go. Alright, last letter, let's have a little look. So I split trajectory up into direction and day-to-day. What I've got here is 2 different journaling techniques. One's for the macro, one's for the micro. Direction, this is a pretty well-known prompt, but here's how it goes. So to make sure that we are on the right direction, we have our goal up here. Let's say it's a financial one. I want to save $1,000. Then you look at the day that you've just had or the week that you've just had, whatever the time period is, and you ask whether you're moving away from that goal or towards that goal. To answer this, you compile evidence. So evidence for away could be like, oh, I got Uber Eats. That wasn't wise. Evidence for towards could be, but I cancelled like 8 subscriptions that I've forgotten about, or I resisted the urge to impulse buy. Whatever it is, then you just adjust accordingly. So if you're moving away, sort of break that behaviour, you're moving towards, just keep it up. Order to raise, to work a little longer instead of spending time with their kids. It's the dollar we can count, but the quality of the relationship we can't.
Hey, I hope you're good. It's wild to think that it's been a year. You'll have either spent the last 365 days pursuing your dreams or allowing time to pass. Either way, a year has come and gone, and I'm hopeful that you stuck with it. And just know that whatever happened, I'm proud of you. Dreams are a funny thing. I don't even know where they come from, but the thing is, we all have them. And the question is, do we dare to go after them? We've all heard those weird motivational gurus tell us how and why we should go after our dreams. But I think when it comes down to it, we simply don't know how. I mean, sure, it's so exciting to talk about how you want to go and achieve all these great big things, but where do we start? Before I set out to achieve this dream, I wanted to get honest with myself. What was the motivation behind all of this? For as long as I can remember, I've always thought that I wasn't good enough. Was this pursuit of something great to convince myself that I was good enough? Or maybe it was for those watching. I've carried so much stress for years, worried about what others perceive me as. Successful, a failure, maybe achieving something I worked so hard for would silence my thoughts. I knew that as the days and months would go on, I would eventually have to come face to face with the true motivation. Either way, it's time to move forward. In the journey of creating something new, it seems like inspiration plays hide and seek. Surrounded by what seems like everyone doing something incredible, I find myself stuck, unable to take my first step forward due to uncertainty, lack of vision, but more importantly, unsure that whatever I do will ultimately be worth it. But instead of letting those thoughts lead me, it was time to make a change and embrace them. Not waiting for the perfect opportunity to present itself, but to create the opportunity and to step into the unknown. Our story begins on July 1st, 2023. It all started with an idea to document my life and share it with others. But the idea didn't start here. We have to go back to January. The first half of 2023 had led me to reevaluate my life. It's not that my life was falling apart. In fact, it felt like my life was overall pretty good. I felt like I was going down a path I once recognized, but now I no longer find familiar. And inwardly, my childlike passions were slowly dying, and I realized something needed to change. I slowly started to think about film and how I could share and document my life in a way that I could use real stories and lessons I've learned to share with others. This idea slowly grew for 6 months, and on July 1st, 2023, it was time to make it a reality. The plan was simple. Post a video once a week for a year. How hard can it be? Turns out, it's really hard. Waking up early every day, coming up with new ideas every week, filming, editing, working, balancing relationships, it all starts to pile up until eventually, burnout. Mind to slow down, and it gives me a sense of moving forward. It had been 152 me. It had led me to a lonely, isolated, and dark place. 5 months into this journey, I had hit what felt like rock bottom. I had been non-stop with little to no results, and I was completely depleted. In these moments of solace and silence, old thoughts of motivations would arise. Why am I doing this? And more importantly, who am I doing this for? In the silence, I found that my reasonings weren't fueled by the desire to achieve something great because I loved it. It was to prove to others that I was something more than my own perceived thoughts of how I was viewed. These insecurities had driven me to an unhealthy routine, where work seemed to take more of a precedent than anything else. And because of this wrong motivation, it had led me to the point of exhaustion and emptiness. Nothing would be enough until I could finally be proud of who I was. Full of highs mixed with a lot of lows. I've had to learn who I am by going through discomfort, challenge, and a lot of struggle. I'd be lying if I told you all of this happened because of me. The reality is, that's not true. I've been able to chase my dreams for the last 367 days because of the people who have encouraged me, loved me, and told me to keep moving forward even when I didn't know how. I've had to borrow faith and strength from others. In this pursuit of my dreams, I've learned a valuable lesson. There's no dream fulfilled that will prescribe a greater identity. It won't remove your deepest insecurities, and it won't fill any emptiness that you may feel. Dreams, however, give purpose. They give you a reason to move forward, to challenge yourself, and to allow you to see who you really are if you step into the unknown. It invites others in and allows them the courage to go after theirs. But overall, the last 365 days were amazing. And here's to the next 365 days ahead of us. And it was in hopes that a year from then, which would be now, I would be able to look in front of the camera and say, I'm a YouTuber. I remember just thinking, this is not gonna work. This is definitely not gonna work. And I was putting in about 12 hours. I was probably putting in about eight targeted hours, like really efficient hours where it's like I'm filming, I'm writing, I'm editing. Once all the excitement I feel like when you
Why won't you answer me? Hello? This is your cell phone. What do you think? You're just not gonna answer me? You keep me in your